Thank you, Chair. Very good morning to all of you. Let me formally thank the organizers for giving another opportunity for me. I was here in the same panel last year as well. I'm Dinesh. I'm leading the $13 million 5-year program, which is implemented by the World Bank, MNRE, and the State Bank of India. This is to promote rooftop solar in the country. And this occasion today is quite important to me and you as well, because the ministry has recently announced the phase 2 program and the guidelines for facilitating and accelerating the solar rooftop in the country. Instead of straight away jumping into the subject, I thought I'll give a background to this subject, because skilling in renewable energy is today's mantra. And most of you know here, I see a lot of youngsters sitting here, that there are a lot of training programs across the country being commissioned, both by the government as well as by the private sector. So the green jobs is today's kind of fashion word, and everybody would like to be a part of the green movement. But having said that, it has to be very clearly spelled out in terms of how you want to build your career. As the previous speaker said, the cross-skilling is very easier said than done, but it is not impossible. But having said that, you need the right skilling environment and enabling kind of an ecosystem to achieve it. So prior to this position, I was leading a program called the Partnership to Advance Clean Energy Deployment in the country, which was a USAID program for 5 years. And within that framework, we established a training network called Solar Energy Training Network, which is SETNet, under the National Institute of Solar Energy. And we have been since then trying to create an ecosystem in terms of training people for the rooftop solar exclusively. And I'm going to focus my discussion and sharing of my experience only in the area of rooftop solar. So when we started this, very naturally we were thinking in terms of how to kind of identify the relevant stakeholders, and then how to skill them and how to retain the skill and upskill, as Madam Veena said, and also try to see how it can be scaled up across the country. So as a result, close to $1 million was allocated by the ministry and the USAID in partnership, and the programs were launched, and a lot of training programs happened in the process. But most of you are aware about the Surya Mitra program. Are you aware of it? Can I say hands raised up? Do you know Surya Mitra program in this country? None of you here know? Okay, one hand, two. Okay. So you have to really watch out this program. Surya Mitra program is for training the ITI technicians, and so far 13 to 15,000 installers have been trained in this country. And for the first time, all the database of all the guys who have been trained is available on the website, made available by the NICE. And of course, there are different feedback in terms of how this training program has resulted in the skilled, the workforce, and how they have to be deployed. A lot of people have got more than one job during the training and after the training. I believe SunSource also have deployed few people from the Surya Mitra. We'll hear from him. The natural tendency for this training programs are not just in within the classroom. It is definitely both on the field as well as in classroom. But the nature of the training definitely is towards job orientation. So Surya Mitra was conceived under this USA training program and launched by MNRE, and we are so proud to be associated with MNRE on this. Moving from that, the stakeholders were the utility engineers, which mean the DISCOM people in all the states in the country, and then the entrepreneurs, and then the financing institutions. So we started identifying the stakeholders in this fashion. So we had 4 to 5 verticals, and we started understanding what is the kind of the need assessment that should be done across these 4 verticals. So what we did was a national study on training needs assessment only for solar rooftop sector, and then with the help of CI, the Confederation of Indian Industry, and then we tried to map what are the barriers and how are the needs and how to really position these kind of trainings across the country. And the first one we found was there is lack of trainers, basically. So as you all know, unless you have a pool of trainers, as again Madam Veena said, we should have a pool of trainers in the country. So we started training the trainers first, and we have, I should say, more than 25 to 30 training institutions across the country were trained, more than that I would say. And then we identified them as a specialist in these verticals, as I told you. and then the training programs were commissioned. This happened between 2014 and 2017. Then post that, the program wound up, and I moved on to this new program, which is under the World Bank. And we started establishing another network called the North and Northeast Solar Energy Training Network in NestNet. And under this, we are now currently training different stakeholders in 17 states across the country. This includes all the Northeast states and most of the North Indian states, and one South Indian state, which is Andhra Pradesh. Under this, what we have done is again the 4 verticals, as I told you before. But we aren't training the installers because it's done by Surya, Mitra under NICE. We have trained the other 3 verticals, which is basically the bankers, entrepreneurs, and the utility engineers. We have trained more than 1,000 stakeholders so far in this program across the country, and the 50% of that belongs to the utility engineers. So when I say utility engineers, it is quite kind of difficult to understand how the DISCOM engineers would spend 2 days with you and then get trained and then apply the knowledge that they gain back into the system. But we definitely wanted to make it a bit more effective, so we made both classroom as well as field-based kind of a training program for them. And believe me, there are a lot of positive feedback that we received from these utility engineers, because the net metering or the solar rooftop installation in the country is happening at a very rapid pace. And therefore, these utility engineers, whether they get transferred or they move on to different departments, they still kind of acknowledge and appreciate what they have learned. And we have done a training effectiveness assessment as well to find that most of these DISCOM engineers have applied or transferred this skill back to the kind of their colleagues when they go back after the training program. So that is a kind of a rewarding statement for us. So that is an experience which we right now have with the utility engineers. Second, we moved on to the entrepreneurs. So the training of entrepreneurs in solar rooftop never happened before. The first one happened under the USAID program, and we used the same training materials, and we updated it and then started training entrepreneurs in different states in the country. And very specifically, I want to mention about our experience in Assam and Meghalaya, where the training was done to the entrepreneurs for 5 days. It's a 5-day program, but with the intention to at least pick a few of them who will be eligible to participate in the business. So not all the entrepreneurs who get trained has the opportunity to work, but here the government of Assam, we help them, we convince them to have a kind of a criteria that they should have a kind of a allocation of maybe 10% or 5% of the total megawatt they are tendering to be eligible only for the entrepreneurs from the state. And they agreed to do that. And then we had the kind of participation from the entrepreneurs who got trained within the training program, and they won the bid also in Assam. So that was again quite a rewarding experience. And a similar one is happening right now in Meghalaya, where we have managed to convince the government of Meghalaya to put the same condition of Assam. So this is basically a kind of a matchmaking kind of an engagement where the training is not a fun fair for the people who participate there, but there is a cost, and then we follow up with them and then try to get the feedback and then try to improve the training program and also to try to give them a future. So that's a kind of a second experience we had. The third one is very important, which I like to share, is the training of the officers from the State Bank of India. And as you know, SBI is huge in this country. It's more than 20,000 branches in the country. And therefore, what we did was to engage the SBI officers who are directly or indirectly involved in appraising the solar rooftop projects, because they got a $625 million from the World Bank. And therefore, we made the curriculum accordingly. And again, it's a 2-day training program with half-a-day site visit. And very nicely, we see the positive engagement by SBI, because wherever the State Bank of India is having a training institute in this country, they have a rooftop project already installed. And therefore, it was quite easy for the officers to see what they are supposed to do is already happening in their own premises. So we had training programs both in Gurgaon and Hyderabad last year. And also early this year we had in Pune. And the response from the officers are quite mixed for a couple of reasons. One is that the SBI officers, as you know, they are not doing only financing of renewable energy. It is not their daily job. So they do sanction various other products. So when you tell them that you have to also appraise rooftop project, it becomes an additional burden for them. There is no incentive for them to do in another sector actually. So we discussed with SBI, and then SBI further developed an incentive program. It may not be a big amount, but it is a recognition of the same appraisal officer who was doing some other business so far, to also additionally get involved in appraising and sanctioning rooftop projects. So there was a small incentive scheme that was introduced as well. So from this aspect, from nook and corner of the country, we have trained close to around 250 SBA officers. We are doing more. Starting next week, we are going to train another 100 SBA officers in the country in Pune. So the journey continues. But as I told you, the kind of the capacity build is not happening overnight, and it can't. At the same time, the trainers pool has to get increased. The training partners whom we have selected, we have around 14 training partners from 17 states who are simultaneously implementing these training programs. The feedback are completely different from different regions. But having said that, the knack of trying to get all those important and successful parameters is quite critical. And then how we keep on changing and giving the feedback and improving upon the delivery of these training programs, keep on updating the delivery materials, otherwise it becomes stagnant at one point of time, and therefore it loses the sheen and interest, and therefore we keep updating the training methodologies. So we have a lot of engagement techniques while you do these training programs. And now we are moving on to the online training program for the entire mass kind of online course, MOOC. So that you and me can download these courses and do interactive online courses and then try to get an online certification, which most of you are aware how the online courses work these days. So we are trying to do that as well to get involved with the individuals like you and me as well. But the institutionalization of this training program we have a long way to go in this country. But to kind of continuously implement these kind of efforts and also try to improve upon the delivery, we are making as much efforts as possible. And as I am talking to you, only from the perspective of rooftop sector, solar in this country, 200 crores of technical assistance money is available. It is not a small amount at all. And most of this amount is being spent only to build the capacity of the decision makers. We also train and interact with the policy makers and the regulators in the country, and also the financiers, as I told you, so that the investment ability and the knowledge in financing improves. And also from the process point of view, the utility engineers, and finally the investment leaders or the entrepreneurs. So from that angle, we are trying to institutionalize the training programs as much as we can. And like the World Bank, the Asian Development Bank has also launched a similar effort in this country. GIZ, the German, are doing a great job in doing hands-on training program. Having said all these things, area where we lack, we want to focus more on is the quality. So how to train the kind of the stakeholders across the board, not just the installers or the technicians, but across the board, how to impart the understanding and the importance of training on the quality aspects is what now we are embarking upon. For the first time in the country, we are going to train the developers who win the bid in Assam, their workforce team, though they would have been exposed to different training aspects. We are offering a training program, and maybe we make it mandatory also, that the winning bidders in Assam bid recently, which was announced by the Assam Energy Development Agency, we will train those the team, because to expose them to the local conditions in advance so that they know exactly how to prepare and then implement it on time. And therefore, we launched also a quality kind of a manual, I would say, along with the bid document, again, first of its kind, so that it could be used by the developers and they can plan ahead to deploy the local people for the installation in a better fashion. So that is one aspect we are right now kind of focusing on, and this has not got the fullest attention in the country, and that's a new area where we are developing and trying to improve upon. So these are some thoughts in terms of what we are doing on ground. I'm not going to give any theory or any recommendations for the bigger picture, because we are focused on this area and we would like to further improve this. And if any of you are interested to know more about the training programs we are offering, you are free to contact me after this session. Thank you so much. As possible. And as I am talking to you, only from the perspective of rooftop sector, solar in this country, 200 crores of technical assistance money is available. It is not a small amount at all. And most of this amount is being spent only to build the capacity of the decision makers. We also train and interact with the policy makers and the regulators in the country, and also the financiers, as I told you, so that the investment ability and the knowledge in financing improves. and also from the process point of view, the utility engineers, and finally the investment leaders or the entrepreneurs. So from that angle, we are trying to institutionalize the training programs as much as we can. And like the World Bank, the Asian Development Bank has also launched a similar effort in this country. GIZ, the German, are doing a great job in doing hands-on training program. Having said all these things, area where we lack, we want to focus more on is the quality. So how to train the kind of the stakeholders across the board, not just the installers or the technicians, but across the board, how to impart the understanding and the importance of training on the quality aspects is what now we are embarking upon. For the first time in the country, we are going to train the developers who win the bid in Assam, their workforce team, though they would have been exposed to different training aspects. We are offering a training program, and maybe we make it mandatory also, that the winning bidders in Assam bid recently, which was announced by the Assam Energy Development Agency, we will train those the team, because to expose them to the local conditions in advance so that they know exactly how to prepare and then implement it on time. And therefore, we launched also a quality kind of a manual, I would say, along with the bid document, again, first of its kind, so that it could be used by the developers and they can plan ahead to deploy the local people for the installation in a better fashion. So that is one aspect we are right now kind of focusing on, and this has not got the fullest attention in the country, and that's a new area where we are developing and trying to improve upon. So these are some thoughts in terms of what we are doing on ground. I'm not going to give any theory or any recommendations for the bigger picture, because we are focused on this area and we would like to further improve this. And if any of you are interested to know more about the training programs we are offering, you are free to contact me after this session. Thank you so much.